Most men are not taught how to process emotion. They are taught how to contain it, not loudly, not directly, but slowly through years of small social corrections. Don't react too much. Don't explain yourself too often. Don't appear emotionally dependent. Stay composed. Stay useful. Stay in control. And eventually, many men become extremely skilled at emotional regulation, but completely disconnected from emotional participation. That is the part nobody talks about, because emotional control is respected from a distance, but it does not always create closeness. Sometimes it creates silence, the kind of silence people interpret as strength. Even when it is actually exhaustion, an emotionally controlled man often becomes easy to admire and difficult to know, not because he is hiding something dramatic, but because he has spent years learning how to compress emotional reality into manageable pieces. He edits himself constantly. He filters reactions, reduces emotional expression, avoids becoming emotionally too much for other people. Over time, this becomes automatic, especially in modern adult life. At work, emotional restraint is rewarded. In relationships, emotional composure is seen as maturity. In male friendships, vulnerability is often rationed carefully, almost strategically. So many men learn to survive emotionally without ever feeling emotionally understood, and survival can look very impressive from the outside. The disciplined man, the calm man, the reliable man, the man who never creates problems for anyone, but internally, there is often a quiet psychological distance growing beneath the surface, because being emotionally controlled is not the same thing as being emotionally connected. Those are two completely different skills. A man can manage conflict calmly and still feel deeply alone. He can provide stability for everyone around him, while privately feeling invisible himself. He can understand other people emotionally without feeling safe enough to reveal his own emotional reality in return. That imbalance becomes heavy after enough years, especially because emotionally controlled men rarely create visible emotional emergencies. They continue functioning. They go to work, answer messages, handle responsibilities, stay productive, stay composed, which means nobody notices the emotional isolation building quietly underneath. There is no dramatic collapse, just gradual emotional disappearance, and modern society often mistakes this for maturity. But suppression and maturity are not identical. A mature man understands emotion without becoming ruled by it. A suppressed man avoids emotional exposure because somewhere deep down, he associates emotional honesty with risk. Risk of judgment, risk of rejection, risk of appearing weak, risk of losing respect. Many men learned this early, sometimes from fathers who survived emotionally through silence, sometimes from schools where sensitivity became social vulnerability, sometimes from relationship openness where emotional openness was later used against them. After enough experiences like that, emotional self-containment stops feeling optional. It starts feeling necessary, so the man becomes highly observant instead. He reads the room carefully, understands everyone else's emotional state, adjusts himself accordingly. But people who constantly regulate themselves for others often become emotionally homeless internally because nobody is regulating space for them. Nobody notices how much emotional weight is being carried quietly, and emotionally controlled men rarely ask. That is another hidden part of this loneliness. They often do not want rescuing. They do not want attention. They do not even necessarily want solutions. What they want is emotional safety without loss of dignity, a place where they do not have to perform emotional invulnerability every second. But modern masculinity makes this difficult because many men are only emotionally welcomed when they remain useful, stable, calm, or competent. The moment emotional complexity appears, the atmosphere changes. People become uncomfortable. Conversations become shorter. Respect sometimes becomes conditional. So men adapt again. They become quieter, not colder, quieter. There is a difference. Coldness pushes people away intentionally. Quiet emotional isolations happens when a person no longer believes emotional expression will truly change anything. And over time, emotional restraint can slowly transform into emotional invisibility, especially for competent men. Competent men are often emotionally abandoned the fastest because everyone assumes they are fine. He handles pressure well. He stays calm. He rarely complains, so nobody checks on him deeply. People admire his control while completely missing the loneliness required to maintain it. That contradiction slowly changes a man psychologically. He becomes more internal, more selective, more emotionally private, more cautious with attachment, not because he lacks emotion, but because he has learned how expensive emotion can become once revealed carelessly. And eventually, many emotionally controlled men stop expecting to be understood at all. That is where the deepest isolation begins. Not when someone is physically alone, but when they no longer believe emotional recognition is realistically available to them. So they continue living normally, laughing occasionally, working constantly, replying late, sleeping poorly, thinking deeply, saying very little. And most people never notice the emotional exhaustion underneath the composure, because calmness is often mistaken for peace. But some men are calm simply because they became tired of explaining themselves to people who only understood emotions when they were loud. The truth is, emotionally controlled men often feel isolated because they learned how to protect themselves emotionally before they ever learned how to safely belong emotionally. Protection came first. Connection came second. And eventually, the protection became permanent. But human beings are not designed to live entirely unexpressed. Even disciplined people need emotional recognition. Even strong men need psychological safety. Even emotionally intelligent men become lonely when every interaction requires self-monitoring. Real emotional connection does not come from performing strength perfectly. It comes from being able to exist without constant emotional editing, without calculating every reaction, without reducing every feeling into something socially acceptable. And the men who appear the most emotionally composed are sometimes the ones carrying the deepest emotional distance internally, not because they are broken, not because they are weak, but because they became too skilled at surviving emotionally without burdening anyone else. And after years of doing that, isolation no longer feels dramatic. It simply starts feeling normal.